I do thank you for giving me a minute of your time. We argue for the simple and whimsical concept of local economy and the free market. And you say, what on earth is local economy? Isn't that just boring business news? The answer is no. Local economy is the fruit of the gospel. It is the fruit of Christianity, and it implies a decentralized, non-hierarchical, non-political, largely voluntarist society where there is law and there is the enforcement of contract and the protection by the state, by the monarch or the king or the law of private property and the right to life. In that scenario, which is envisioned in the scriptures, and which we've had samples of, we've had tastes of this kind of life in the past. In the 1830s, there was a lot of it. In the 1870s and 1880s, there were also strong tastes of this sort of libertarian, liberty-oriented, freedom-fruiting life in this country, in the United States, in and among the 50 states. But we don't have it now, and our goal is to reestablish, as we can, the fruits of Christianity. But of course, that means you have to have the essence of it first, which of course is the gospel. And my program is not about the gospel directly. That is the church, where the Christian church has that message, has that argument for redemption, which is based on the Lord Jesus Christ, his sacrificial death for his people on the cross, and God's giving mankind his law. The Ten Commandments is the summary of that law, and he's given two major claims upon mankind: for the individual repentance, and also in God's law, the government of mankind through kingdoms, through states, through nations, through tribes, through tongues, through peoples, right? And that is the social and economic and political aspect of Christianity, which is its cultural, civilizational argument. That's mostly found in the Old Testament. The New Testament focuses on the individual, the Old on you might say the collective. And so Christians today have forgotten the old and neglect the old in an abusive way, it seems, in many ways. And so we don't have much to offer in the way of argument at the public square or in the public square about the fruits of Christianity, not knowing what they are. So we don't want them, we don't covet them, we don't yearn for them, we don't fight for them in many cases. There are examples, though, of a right response to fear and fearlessness, which is one of the fruits of the gospel. We can't have prosperity in fear. We can't have in entrepreneurship. We can't have free enterprise. Really, we can't have capitalism if people are fearful. People are fearful when things are uncertain, when the law is unclear, when the law is subjective and arbitrary and left in the hands of people such as Thomas Graham, the chancellor in Chancery Court, judge in Sequatchie County. He is the object of a petition that was filed yesterday in Circuit Court in Sequatchie County, pertaining to petitioner. The respondent in this pleading is the sheriff of that county, Ronnie Hitchcock, who has in jail Carol Gaddy, a political prisoner in Sequatchie County. And the document is a petition for writ of habeas corpus. Habeas is one sentence. And here in a nutshell is the one sentence that you want to ask for. If you are held unlawfully and arbitrarily and capriciously in a jail cell somewhere, you may have just a piece of toilet paper, okay? Piece of toilet paper and a crayon. That may be all you have, but with that, you can write the one sentence, which is intended to free you from this arbitrary and capricious confinement in a jail somewhere here, maybe nearby. Maybe it's in Sequatchie County. And the sentence is, it's petition for habeas corpus, and habeas corpus means show the body. You have a petition to show the body. That's your body. And you want it brought before a judge so he can evaluate the claims against you, which you're confident are specious claims against you, lawless claims against you by one acting only under pretended authority, only under pretended, falsely claimed authority that is not real. And in fact, the state actor, whether it's a judge, whether it's an officer, whether it's a Mayor Dwayne Land, for example, in Dunlap, acting in personal capacity outside of authority. And this whole case in Dunlap is a case of the thing that we need to watch. And because there is this fear, because people they live in fear up there. If the mayor can do this to Carol Gaddy, he can do it to anybody. So there is an instability. There is a closing off, a foreclosing of prospects of people in Sequatchie County when the mayor of the biggest town can go after this feisty Christian woman who's got her own mind, right? Her problem is she's a woman. And because she's a woman, the old guard in that county, all the chums from the same high school, they have it in for her. She's not respected, right? She's not respected, and neither are you. If they can do this to her, they can do this to you, my listener here at Nooga Radio, David Tulis. The petition for writ of habeas corpus points out that she's jailed in violation of the Tennessee official oppression statute. That's TCA 39-16403. Under her, she's jailed in violation of her rights under the Constitution, Article 1, Section 7, that bars unreasonable searches and seizures, and also the Fourth Amendment to the federal Constitution, and her rights to due process. The actions against her, this filing says, are oppressive, are exerted in and by a court without subject matter jurisdiction, and are pursued in bad faith against her lawful, here's you, okay, lawful, innocent, private, personal, non-commercial, and harmless use of her house and property and her personal liberty. That's what's happening in this county. It's arbitrary, and Judge Thomas Graham has said, I'm going to hold you in my jail forever, unless you voluntarily grant permission to search without a warrant or without a finding of a crime having been committed somewhere and the evidence of that crime on your property. You know, the stolen gold, the stolen bag of bank cash with the unexploded red dye bomb inside, those are the kind of things, those aren't even being alleged here, not even being alleged. No crime being alleged by the mayor, who 2 years ago began a lawsuit. And the Gaddys point out, as this filing points out, that there was the failure to exhaust lower remedies, as Kelly Gaddy calls them, lower remedies, also administrative remedies, under the doctrine of the necessity of exhausting administrative remedies. In other words, the state can't go against you in court if it hasn't done what it should have done in the lower levels, that is to say, in administration. And here in Dunlap, the rule would have said, okay, well, we want to search your house, Mrs. Gaddy. We're going to send you a letter and ask you to come before the town fathers to discuss your house. And that's called due process. That was never done. She was never advised that she requested to appear civilly and outside of conflict, outside of litigation, before the city council to ask about her house. And if there's a problem with the house, then they should bring it up there, not under legal stress, right? Not in a legal conflict context. The court that has this case is the wrong court. It should have been filed in city court, according to this petition for writ of habeas corpus. And so the Gaddys, Kelly Gaddy, did this work, arguing that the whole thing is in the wrong court. The court has only ministerial jurisdiction, which is to say it has jurisdiction to do one thing, to get rid of the case, to eject the case, because it does not have subject matter jurisdiction. The court, Chancery Court, does not have subject matter jurisdiction. And this has been pointed out several times by these defendants. And so there's bad faith. There's a lot of bad faith here. And bad faith is a killer. If you are a state actor acting in bad faith, you are going to be ruined by the proving of that, because you have been notified by filings before the judge that there is no authority. And this filing cites an article in the Dunlap Charter, Article 16, that says all disputes under the ordinance, in this case, Ordinance 88, have to go before the city court, not Chancery. So the mayor went straight to court, sued immediately without any of the lower remedies being pursued. Again, suggesting personal animus against this couple. And she's been in jail since Monday. And the document says municipal authority for inspection on health and safety welfare grounds must be reinforced by a sworn warrant if the homeowner invokes her rights, or the lessor, that is to say someone leasing property, demands a warrant before entry. No authority exists if the homeowner refuses or allows an inspector, and no authority is granted by a sworn warrant in this case. And she's citing Camera versus Municipal Court, 387 U.S. 523, 1967 High Court ruling. For Judge Graham, point 9 says, for Judge Graham to claim authority to jail the petitioner on the pretense she is in contempt is to act falsely, she says, against an innocent citizen invoking her rights, to act in his own personal capacity outside judicial immunity in bad faith in combination with others, to deprive the petitioner of constitutionally guaranteed rights as protected under 42 U.S. Code 1983, and that's the denial. And also, there's a thrown-in sentence here: the denial of due process of laws. She was denied the due process of laws, and that these are all, you might say, fatal to Dunlap's continuing abuse of this person. If you want some advice on protest, you, my listener, I want you to get involved. I want you to get involved in protest. Okay, you need to be involved in protesting things that are evil and wicked, and send me an email to Nooganomics.com. That's Nooganomics.com. Go to the contact window and ask me to send you a little booklet. Okay, it's a little booklet written by John Whitehead, the constitutional attorney, and it's called Constitutional Q&A: The Right to Protest. We have many abuses of the right to protest, and people are being muzzled. They're being treated like criminals for simply thinking freely and wanting to debate the issues in an open forum, which is to say the public square. Right? We have a right to be there, and the First Amendment guarantees that. We do not need to be caged. We do not need to have permits to speak. From high levels, officials are abusing the people. They're abusing people like you. They're abusing people like me. Not just Judge Graham, not just Judge Thomas Graham's abusing people like you in a county, but it's happening in Virginia from the governor. The governor is blocking access to a monument and saying you can't have any kind of free speech near this monument. Simply illegal. It's illegal. It's illegal. It is illegal. And you, my listener, need to support people who are the victims. And I do want you to think about supporting Carol Gaddy. You need to do something to help her, okay? You, my listener, don't think somebody else is going to do it, because no one else is listening to this show except you, okay? It's just you and me, and you know that. You know it's just you and me. David Tulis, the host, here at AM 1240 and FM 92.7, live on Facebook, of course, live on YouTube for that one listener in Beijing who thinks that that our city council is doing what his country did to him in raising the digital wall around Beijing. We've done the same in Chattanooga with the digital wall around Airbnb, around a whole area of the economy, affecting hundreds of families, a ban by hundreds of families by city council. That one listener in China is thinking, wow, they did that to us. And so you, my listener, think about what you can do. No one else is going to do anything except you. All right? No one cares about Mrs. Gaddy. Nobody. Nobody cares about that family except you. And why do you care? Because you've been paying attention. You've been paying attention to me, David Tulis, your host. And I'm so glad that I have had just a couple minutes of your time. So email me at Nooganomics.com. Do two things in that email. Tell me something I need to know about. And then number two, talk to me about your interest in a free guide for protest. You need to be a protester. You need to be out there. You, my listener. I'll send it to you. No, of course, it's no charge, right? I got it for free from the constitutional attorney, John Whitehead. It's called Constitutional Q&A: The Right to Protest. What your rights are. You need to know what your rights are. Because why do I talk about that so much? Well, because we're not going to have prosperity. We're not going to have a strong local economy unless people live confidently. If you live in fear, you're not going to be prosperous. If you live in fear, you're not going to invest in your own business. If you're fearful about being arrested because you're taking part in protest, and I've got customers I need to work with the next morning, I'm afraid of getting arrested. If you're afraid of getting maced or shot by the cops because you're protesting, you're not going to be strong. You're not going to be forward thinking. You're not going to be considering your customer. You will hold back. What we need to have in Chattanooga is an economy where people don't hold back. They stop living in fear. They stop being afraid of the man. They stop being afraid of the regulator, the tax man, the official, the cop, the mayor, the city council, the ordinance, the rule, the regulation. They're not living in fear of those things anymore. And they're saying, you know, I have constitutional rights. And I'm going to start thinking about what they are. I'm going to try to start studying what they are and asserting maybe one and maybe two, just for this one case. I'm going to work on this one case, and I'm going to assert myself, and I'm not going to live in fear. We cannot have a strong local economy that's fearful. That's why these issues about the law are important. That's why I keep dragging you back to these questions about the law, because they matter. If we live in fear of the state, we cannot be prosperous. All we can do is put our money under our mattress and wait for the apocalypse. That's what we're going to do. Do you want to be like that? Is that you? Do you want to be doing that? Well, I've lived in fear enough, in fear of men, long enough, and my time is running out. Do you know that there's a fine Christian ministry, by the way, which took some offensive action, and that is the ministry of the late Dr. D. James Kennedy, and he is suing the Southern Poverty Law Center for trafficking in false and misleading descriptions of the services offered under the ministry's trademarked name, and for defamation pursuant to Alabama common law arising from the publication and distribution of information that libels the ministry's reputation and subjects the ministry to disgrace, ridicule, odium, and contempt in the estimation of the public. And the lawsuit by D. James Kennedy's ministries, the defamation lawsuit, also names Amazon.com here in Chattanooga, Amazon.com, Amazon Smile Foundation, and GuideStar USA. And it is under the Lanham Trademark Act, and it asks for a permanent injunction in joining the Southern Poverty Law Center, the leading hate group in the country. SPLC is a hate group, and no respecting journalist, Allison Gerber at the Time Free Press, you should not allow the reporters at that newspaper to quote SPLC. It is an instigator and a defamer of many, many people. And here we have finally a Christian ministry standing its ground. The mission of D. James Kennedy Ministry is to proclaim the gospel upon which this nation was founded. The complaint says to teach and nurture the followers of Jesus, to equip and encourage believers, and to defend religious liberty. Nowhere in the purpose or action of the ministry is there hate, or any room for hate. This lawsuit says against the political attack machine, as it describes SPLC. In a statement, it says that the SPLC has descended into a political attack machine, plastering the hate label not only on legitimate hate groups, so there are legitimate hate groups according to this statement, but also on anyone who disagrees with its far-left political persuasions. It is morally dishonest to group mainstream Christian ministries with neo-Nazis and violent militias. Yet this is exactly what the SPLC does. And media news reporting uncritically perished. And that's the media news reporting at the Chattanooga Time Free Press, which has used the SPLC repeatedly as an informative and unbiased source. Shame on Allison Gerber. Shame on Allison Gerber and the Time Free Press. As I was mentioning a moment ago, there was a good story about General AP Stewart's bust at the courthouse lawn. Go to Chattanooga.com. Chattanooga.com. Read the story about this man. John Shearer is the writer, and John Shearer is a longtime writer in the area and knows many, many things, many people, has interviewed hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of people here in the Chattanooga area. And read that story to find out about this general. And I think if you do that, whatever your perspective is, you're going to be edified and you're going to be better. And I think what knowledge can do about a man's life and a man's cause, though he wore the wrong uniform, is a way of giving grace. I think if we know about people's history, know about their character, their labors, their good intentions, we can look past these symbols. And don't forget, this is a point I was trying to make yesterday with Dave Crocker, but I just couldn't quite get it out. I didn't have time to make the point. But in short, the thing that I think needs to be injected in, thought about at least for half a second, all right, just at least half a second, is this, that these are signs of the past. And for a black person to see a Confederate general and to remember the slave days and to remember how the South was humiliated and that general lost, that's good, right? The fact that general lost is, for a black person, comforting, right? You were freed by Abraham Lincoln, by his armies of blue. And here is a statue of a man who lost. To see that man who lost, I think is a good thing, right? If you want to be upset at the man, think just to mollify yourself, to ease yourself of the burden of anger, right? The burden of distress. Think that, well, here's a statue to a man who lost. And I think it's good that he's there because I can remember how he lost. And I can remember how, as I read John Shearer's article in Chattanooga, and how this man tried to restore tranquility between the two sides, between the people on the two sides, as General Lee did. General Lee was a great mollifier. He was a great unifier, a pacifier of injured feelings. And he rejected absolutely the idea of a guerrilla war by Southern partisans after the war had been, after the main armies had surrendered. The Army of Virginia was not the first one, was not the last one to surrender. There were others that were still in the field. I think even that of Nathan Bedford Forrest and others who were later surrendering. Those men lost, and now we see their statues. And the fact that we have a statue generally should not cause racial animus, but we should say if you're a black man who is of gracious spirit, right, a man with a healing spirit, a man encouraged perhaps by the arguments of people such as here in Chattanooga, Franklin McCauley, who differs from you politically. Well, that's fine. You know, he's for public schools, fine. Let you all differ on certain things. He may be a critic of Trump and you're a supporter of Trump. Those things don't really matter. But what Franklin McCauley, a humanitarian, right? He's kind of a humanitarian, secular prophet. He has the idea of people looking past the skin color. Think of just for a second. I know you're not a racist person. You're my listener. You're not racist at all. You may be conservative. You may like President Trump. You may think President Trump is right. I think President Trump's position on this has been excellent. I think all the criticism about him being one-sided and favoring, because he criticizes both sides in a riot, and he should only criticize one side. I think the media is just lying to you. They're just lying to you. They're just troublemakers. And just ignore them, right? Ignore the media. I think he's right. But those, whether you like him or dislike him, those are kind of beside the point. Franklin Graham is making the good point that we should not look at the skin color, because we all, you, my listener, and the black man in the next cubicle to you, you all have hairlines, you all have noses, you have nostrils, you have nose hairs, you have Adam's apples, you have jaws, you have ears, just above the neck, right? The part that Dr. Angela Lund works on in her sleep clinic, or her sleep remedies, just from the neck up. Every man has like every other man. When you're dead and you're lying in your bones, no one can know whether those are the bones of a white man or a black man, right? Because your bone structures are all very, very much alike. So those are not real causes and real grounds for difference. I think the differences come from political perspectives, from ideologies, from religious beliefs. And Franklin McCauley is right. Those skin color doesn't really matter. And I think racial animus is mostly gone, except for the media agitating and distracting you, my listener. I was going to mention something about the problem that we've faced in our time, and I've just run out of time, and that is a great concept, and that is revolution within the form. And Machiavelli, as a great little piece in LouRockwell.com, says, he who desires or wishes to reform the condition of a city and wishes that it be accepted and that it be able to maintain itself to everyone's satisfaction is forced to retain at least the shadow of ancient modes, so that it might seem to the people that order has not changed, though in fact the new orders are completely alien to those of the past. And here he's talking about appearances and the idea that Garrett mentions in one of his wonderful essays on the New Deal. And that is his concept of revolution within the form. We've had that, and much is now against us. Much is against local economy and free market from the state. The enemy is the state. The enemy is not the black man. The enemy is not the white man. The black man should see the state as the enemy. And go to Nooganomics.com and read my analysis of why the monument issue is a distraction. There are real slaveries alive today that enslave in an equal opportunity fashion both the black man, and the white man. David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and